Hey, equal rights!
Is resulting in rises in domestic violence. So we got so many issues to rally about at International Women's Day all across the country. And we also, it's an international day. We've got to recognise that Iranian women, Kurdish women are leading this mammoth fight in Iran for women, life and freedom. And we stand in solidarity with our Global South sisters, queer women, trans women, and say enough is enough.
As an Iranian woman, a woman of Iranian background who came here to Australia herself as a political refugee, I am here to raise the emblem of the uprising that for the first time in the history of our country has actually put the demands of the Iranian women at the forefront of an uprising to raise the slogan of that movement, the woman, life, freedom.
Free woman in Iran!
Free woman in Iran!
Free woman in Iran!
Free
Say her name! Say her name!
Mahsa Amini!
Woman, life, freedom!
Woman, life, freedom! Got to go! Go home! Parenthood has got to go! Hey, hey! Go home!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Equal rights!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Equal rights!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want? Life to go! الان میام شعار میدم بذار فیلم بگیرم Women's life freedom! Women's life freedom!
My respects to the owners of the land that we have gathered on today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, sovereignty never ceded. Sisters, friends, comrades, on International Women's Day, IWD 2023, all over the world, including in Australia, as we have heard, women are not safe. Women are not equal. Women are not respected. So we have a lot of work to do. Although our struggle continues on IWD 2023, we come together to celebrate the achievements of women. Sisters, friends, comrades, I present to you that the Woman, Life, Freedom uprising now sweeping the four corners of Iran, my homeland, and the world is a courageous and inspiring step in the struggle of women's rights for equality and freedom. The Woman, Life, Freedom movement is the continuation of nearly 100 years of women's struggle in Iran to achieve an equal status in society. Today, the Woman, Life, Freedom uprising echoes the revolt of Iranian women in Iran and in diasporic communities against the violent control exerted upon our bodies and lives by the Islamic Republic ideology and its state machinery. We stand for our dignity, confident of our capabilities, and continue to resist the theocratic rule of the Islamic Republic. We will not be owned property. We will not be silent. We will not be obedient. We are women living in our bodies without shame. We are 4 generations of women imprisoned, tortured, sexually assaulted, and killed in the name of patriarchal order. We are working women kept poor. We are 4 generations of mothers seeking justice for the murdered and the disappeared. We are hope. We are courage. We are peace. We demand justice and equality for the marginalized and the forgotten. We demand equality for women. We demand equality for the working poor and impoverished. We demand equality for the multiple nations who call Iran their homeland. Dear sisters, friends and comrades on IWD 2023, if you are organizing for workers' rights in Iran, a corrupt oligarchy controls the economy. Workers are denied union. Protesting workers, teachers, nurses, and organizers are in prison. Be our ally against the Islamic Republic. If you stand against violence against women, Iranian women have lived and resisted it. We are your ally. Be our ally against the Islamic Republic. If you are standing up for the lives, education, and safety of children in Iran, there are hundreds of thousands of working children. The Islamic Republic has killed more than 50 children in the course of the Woman Life Freedom Uprising. Over the last few weeks, the Islamic Republic has aided and abetted chemical attacks on hundreds of girls' schools. More than 1,000 young girls have been poisoned and hospitalized. A few have lost their lives. Be our ally against the Islamic Republic. If you are campaigning for land, culture, language rights, Iranian multiple ethnic groups are fighting for the same rights. Be our ally against the Islamic Republic. If freedom of speech is your cause in Iran, women journalists, lawyers, artists, students, and protesters are imprisoned in vast numbers for expressing themselves and can be executed for doing so. Be our ally against the Islamic Republic. If you're environmental activists in Iran, oligarchic profit-making has resulted in destruction of water and land resources. Multiple environmental activists are in prison. Be our ally against the Islamic Republic. If you are LGBTIQ+ activists in Iran, sexual activity between members of the same sex is illegal and is punishable, can be punishable by death. Be our ally against the Islamic Republic. If you are peace activists, the Islamic Republic actively supported the war of Assad regime in Syria. Its weapons are used in the Ukrainian war, and it has waged war against the people of Iran in Kurdistan, in Baluchistan, and in many other places. Sisters, friends, and comrades, on IWD 2023, we seek your support and alliance with the Woman Life Freedom Movement. Your cause is our cause. Make our cause your cause. Let us be each other's voice, because we are people, we are many. Woman, life, freedom. Woman, life, freedom. Woman, life, freedom. Woman, life, freedom. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Parissa, and thank you to Kate, who does a wonderful job at our global charity, Union Aid Abroad. And in response to the request to be your ally for the Iranian Women's Solidarity, we are your ally. We are proud to have you here.
I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, and acknowledge that we meet on stolen land It's land that was never ceded, and we must make reparation to First Nations people in Australia. The New South Wales Teachers Federation, our members and me personally support the Voice to Parliament. We support the Uluru Statement, Voice, Treaty, Truth. And we support any government that will enact Voice, Treaty and Truth. But sisters, I'm here today on International Women's Day, and I've got to say, I'm appalled that in 2023 we still don't have equal pay for women. I'm a 60-year-old woman and I've been fighting too long. We should have equal pay for women now. We are 51% of the population. We deserve the respect that capitalist governments only show with money. Women's work must be valued. Comrades, women my age, 55 plus, are the fastest group of people who are moving into poverty and homelessness. This is not on. Women who have worked all their life, women who created you who are here now, are moving into poverty at the end of their working career. That is not acceptable.
Sexual and gender-based violence committed by the military of Myanmar has been documented for decades by women's groups in that country. And the UN has collected testimonies from hundreds of women, particularly those, for example, those Rohingya women who have been subject to grave violations, including rape, gang rape, mutilation, and other sexual violations.
Shame, shame.
To date, no military leader in Myanmar has ever been held accountable for these systematic sexual violations. Then, on February the 1st, 2021, the military ignored the results of a free and fair election, arrested all the senior officials in the country, and took over in a military coup. And since that time, 3,000 civilians have been killed, 17,000 people have been arrested, 1.5 million people have been made homeless or displaced. It's a shocking human rights crisis in our region on our doorstep. Women detainees being held in jail, there's documented evidence about violence, beatings and sexual violence against them, and they are most vulnerable. But the people of Myanmar continue to resist. Right across the country, people launched into a civil disobedience movement, and that continues today. Women have been at the forefront of that revolution. And women right around the world continue to resist oppression, and I want to acknowledge women in the Middle East, in Palestine, who continue to resist oppression, our sisters in Afghanistan who continue to resist the Taliban. And now I want to introduce the next speaker, who is going to tell us about the most extraordinary, momentous movement that's exploded in Iran to oppose the violence and the deadly oppression of women there. Parisa Azvadi is a refugee. She's a biomedical scientist with a doctorate in genetic engineering. She's an intersectional feminist activist. She helps run a community radio station called Radio Avazan, which means Voice of Women, and they broadcast weekly on a community radio station here in Sydney, focusing on women's rights in Iran and globally. And she's the organiser of many women's actions over many years. So in the words of that slogan we've come to know from the women of Iran, women, life, freedom. Over to you.
Life, freedom.
Over to you, Parisa. Thank you.
Recognize that inclusive feminism that recognises the struggle of women of colour, of migrant women, of refugee women, inclusive feminism that recognises the struggle of trans, gender diverse and queer women, and inclusive feminism that includes and recognises the struggles of disabled women and women with social and economic disadvantage is the only type of feminism we should be fighting for. So let's stand together. Happy International Women's Day, and let's kick this bloody Liberal Perrottet government out on March 25.
So if there are 50 nurses or midwives here who aren't members, there's lots of people in blue who can help sign you up. It's fair to say that being a nurse or a midwife in New South Wales is more than tough at the moment. After 3 years of brutal health pandemic, which isn't exactly over, our nurses and midwives are spent, and to a broader extent they're feeling heavily exploited for putting our own lives on the line to provide vital health care to our communities. As the pandemic unfolded in 2020, women accounted for 88% of registered nurses and midwives in Australia and 85% of our aged care workforce. Globally, women have been disproportionately exposed to COVID-19 as essential frontline workers. And while our schools or early childhood education was disrupted, many women shouldered the unpaid domestic duties at home and experienced a greater risk of domestic violence. COVID-19 also uncovered the glaring inadequacies of our healthcare system here in New South Wales. In particular, the lack of sufficient nursing or midwifery investment or workforce planning for the future. We're caught in a vicious cycle where nurses and midwives feel compelled to do more and more hours of overtime rather than risk leaving our colleagues short-staffed or on a shift or that we worry our patients might be missing out on care.
They're so talented, Indigenous women, to do the artwork, and this is the outcome. This is the winner that's down below. What we're doing is we're actually going to ask all the other unions to come together and do this on a yearly basis. We were able to sit down with the women, talk to them about what International Women's Day is. Last year it was about safe, respected and equal. So we talked to them about that, the fact that they come from domestic violence, from their childhood, from their partners. So they deserve to be safe, respected and equal whilst they're in custody, whilst they're in the community and whilst they're in their relationships at work and at work. So they really took it on board. We had about 50 inmates from across New South Wales. We could not pick, it was going to be first, second and third. We could not pick, obviously we were able to pick the first winner, it was a standout, but we could not pick, there was another 5 that we could not pick from to be second, third, so they all got a prize. The winner, we paid for their artwork, it was valued at the Lombay Boom Gate. We paid for their artwork as for the valuation, and we also did an auction and paid over and above the value, I think for another 12 pieces of artwork. So, and that all went back to the women. The first prize got a $200 voucher plus to go towards toiletries, because most of you probably don't know that most women leave correctional centres. They don't have much, they only have the clothes that they come in on. Most of the time those clothes are too small for them now. They don't have toiletries, they don't have a bag to go home with, so we got them that. And the second, third, fourth and sixth prize got $150 voucher to go towards toiletries. I just want to tell you a bit about the winning.
بر سینه آسمان یک ابر خسته سرد، یک ابر پر ز باران، خورشید گرممان کرد، باران شدیم چکیدیم، ما قطره قطره بر خاک از آسمان رسیدیم، صد رود کوچک از ما بر خاک شد روانه، از دشت ها گذشتیم رفتیم
آزادی بشی بشی هر بشی جن جن آزادی بشی بشی هر بشی جن جن آزادی
شنو بهی ماجیان پرتی آلای سربستی شنو بهی ماجیان پرتی آلای سربستی آواری گردامه شینی سادا و بردستی آفرین لکی جانی نسلی رونکی و آو کن رابری شورش دولتی خورتا واتی خوبه هورا بگیش دنگن هغینا واتی خوبه هورا بگیش دنگن هغینا شمشان آزادی مبادر وشوی دنیا شمشان آزادی مبادر وشوی دنیا
آزادی آزادی شمشان آزادی 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 شمشان آزادی
باسور انقلابی به خیابان داده جان باسور انقلابی به خیابان داده جان بوسه باد رقصان بر گیسوی دختران در بوی گاز و باد هیاهوی شبانه خاموش میگیره کرده بو به خسم زبانه یک جان شده هم بسته به یک صدا یک صدا یک جان شده هم بسته به یک صدا یک صدا
زن زندگی آزادی شده شعار دنیا زن زندگی آزادی شده شعار دنیا آزادی آزادی زن زندگی آزادی 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 زن زندگی آزادی
ويا بخوين كشان سنة روشي طولة دور يا حبي تشكلنا مني ولا تطلبها ورا بقيش دنيانها غينا ولا تطلبها ورا بقيش دنيانها غينا شمشان آزادي مبادر وشي دنيا شمشان آزادي مبادر وشي دنيا
آزادی آزادی شمشان آزادی آزادی آزادی